I gave her $500,000, my entire retirement, everything I'd built in 30 years of business back in Sydney. I thought we were building something together, a real partnership, a real future. But the day I signed those papers, the day I made her co-owner, that's the day I stopped being her partner. That's the day I became her obstacle. I'm sitting across from Kathleen in this tiny cafe in Makati, and I can barely catch my breath. The papers are spread out between us, architectural sketches and land surveys and business projections. And she's talking so fast, so passionately about this beach resort in Palawan that I feel like I'm watching my future unfold right in front of me. She's drawing on napkins now, showing me where the bungalows would go, where the restaurant would face the sunset. And her eyes are so bright I forget for a moment that I'm 64 and she's 35, and we've only known each other 6 months. Marcus, this is it, she says, tapping the papers with her finger. This is what we've been talking about, a real business, something that lasts. I met Kathleen at a business networking event 6 months ago. I'd been living in Manila for 2 years by then, trying to figure out what retirement was supposed to look like after my divorce back in Sydney. 30 years building a logistics company, and then one day, my wife decided she wanted something different, someone different, and I was left with money but no purpose. I came to the Philippines because it was cheap, because it was warm, because no one there knew who I used to be. The networking group was supposed to be a way to meet people, maybe find some consulting work to keep my brain active. Then Kathleen walked in. She was different from the start. Confident, sharp, spoke perfect English, had a degree in business management from a university in Manila. She wasn't like the other women I'd seen in bars or malls, the ones who smiled too much and laughed at everything. Kathleen was serious, professional. When we talked about market opportunities and investment strategies, she kept up with me, maybe even challenged me. It felt good to be challenged again. How much are we talking? I asked, even though I already know the answer. We've been dancing around this conversation for weeks. Initial investment 150,000 US dollars for the land, she says. Then another 100,000 for permits and initial construction. Then the final phase, about 250,000 for the build out and furnishings. She pauses, looks right at me. 500,000 total. I know it's a lot, Marcus, but this isn't just a business. This is our future, together. Our future. The words hit me somewhere deep. After the divorce, I didn't think I'd have a future with anyone. I thought I was done with all that. But somewhere between those first coffee meetings about investment opportunities and the weekend trips to Tagaytay and Batangas, something shifted. She wasn't just a business contact anymore. She was someone who listened when I talked about feeling invisible, someone who made me feel like I still had something to offer the world. You really think we can make this work? I asked. I know we can, she says, and she reaches across the table, takes my hand. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that? There's a voice in my head, small but insistent, telling me this is too fast, that I don't really know her, that $500,000 is everything I have left. But then I look at her, at the way she's looking at me, and I think about going back to my empty condo, sitting alone with my laptop, watching YouTube videos about other people's lives. And I think maybe, just maybe, this is my chance to build something that matters, to not be invisible anymore. I trust you, I say. She smiles, squeezes my hand. Then let's change our lives. I should have listened to that small voice. I should have asked more questions. I should have waited. But I didn't. Because for the first time in 3 years, I felt needed. I felt alive. And that feeling was worth more to me than caution, more than common sense, more, I would learn, than $500,000. When do we start? I ask. Tomorrow, she says. I'll set up a meeting with my lawyer. We'll structure everything properly. You, me, equal partners. Equal partners. I like the sound of that. I liked it so much I didn't notice she never actually defined what equal meant. The wire transfer goes through on a Tuesday morning, $150,000. I watch the numbers disappear from my Sydney bank account, and I feel this strange mix of terror and excitement. Kathleen calls me 2 hours later crying, telling me it went through, telling me we're really doing this. I can't believe you believe in me, she says, and I tell her it's not just her I believe in, it's us. 3 days later, we're on a plane to Palawan. She's got her laptop out the whole flight, showing me listings, showing me comps, explaining why this particular stretch of beach near El Nido is perfect. It's far enough from the main tourist areas that we won't have competition, she explains, but close enough that people will find us. And Marcus, the land is so cheap right now. In 5 years, it'll triple in value. I'm not really listening to the business case anymore. I'm watching the way her hair falls across her face when she leans over the laptop, the way she bites her bottom lip when she's concentrating. This beautiful, intelligent woman, and she chose me, chose to build something with me. After everything with my ex-wife, after feeling like I was too old, too boring, too used up, here's Kathleen making me feel like I'm 40 again. We land in Puerto Princesa and rent a car, drive north toward El Nido. The road is rough, winding through jungle and small villages, and every mile I feel further from my old life, from the divorce, from the emptiness. Kathleen has her hand on my thigh while I drive, and she's humming along to the radio, some Filipino pop song I don't know, and I think this is what happiness feels like. Not the desperate, clinging happiness I felt in my marriage. Something lighter, freer. The land is perfect. It's this long stretch of white sand beach, maybe 200 meters, with coconut palms and this rocky outcropping on the north end that would be perfect for sunset dinners. We walk the whole property, and Kathleen is already planning everything. The bungalows here facing the water, the main building here, restaurant downstairs, our private quarters upstairs. We'll live here, Marcus. Can you imagine waking up to this every morning? We'd really live here? I ask. Full time? Why not? She says. What's keeping you in Manila? What's keeping either of us anywhere? She's right. I have no ties, no obligations. My son back in Sydney barely talks to me since the divorce. My ex-wife got the house, most of the friends. I came to the Philippines to disappear, and here's Kathleen offering me a reason to reappear, to matter again. That night we stay in a small hotel in El Nido and make love with the windows open, the sound of the ocean mixing with our breathing, and afterward, she traces her fingers across my chest and whispers, "Thank you for believing in us." Us. I'd stopped being an us when my marriage ended. Now I was an us again. Over the next 2 weeks, Kathleen introduces me to everyone we'll need. There's Ernesto, the contractor, a thick-shouldered man with cement dust in his hair, who pumps my hand and says he'll give us the best price because Kathleen is family. There's Rodrigo, who works at the local municipal office, who can help fast-track our permits. There's June, her cousin, an architect who sketches out designs while we sit at a beach bar drinking San Miguel. Everyone is friendly. Everyone treats me with respect. I'm not just some old foreigner. I'm Kathleen's partner. I'm building something here. She moves into my condo in Manila when we get back. Just one day, her suitcase is in my bedroom, and her shampoo is in my shower, and she's making breakfast in my kitchen. Is this okay? She asks, but she's smiling like she already knows the answer. Of course it's okay. It's more than okay. The condo hasn't felt like home until now. We talk about marriage one night, lying in bed, and I bring it up carefully because I don't want to scare her. Do you ever think about it? I ask. Getting married? Of course, she says. But Marcus, I want to do this right. I want us to build the business first. So when we get married, we know it's real. We know we're partners in everything, not just love. I admire that, the practicality of it. She's not some gold digger rushing to the altar. She wants to prove we can build something together first. It makes sense. It makes me trust her more. I wire another $100,000 for the land deposit, and initial permits. Kathleen handles everything, working with lawyers, filing paperwork, meeting with government officials. I try to follow along, but everything is in Tagalog and she has to translate, and honestly, I'm just happy to let her handle it. She knows the system, she knows the language, she knows how things work here. My job is to provide the capital and the business expertise. Her job is to execute. My son calls from Sydney. Dad, I'm worried, he says. That's a lot of money. Do you really know this woman? I know her better than I knew your mother. I snap and I regret it immediately. But he's touching a nerve. He's voicing the doubts I'm trying to ignore. This is different. This is real. I'm just saying, slow down. Maybe talk to a lawyer yourself. Make sure everything is in your name. It can't be in my name. Foreigners can't own land here. Kathleen explained all that. Then how are you protected? I'm protected because we're partners, because we're building this together. He goes quiet for a moment. Okay, Dad, I hope you're right. After we hang up, I feel unsettled, angry. Why can't he just be happy for me? Why does everyone have to question this? Kathleen walks in, sees my face. What's wrong? My son, I say. He doesn't understand. She sits down next to me, puts her head on my shoulder. He's probably just worried. You're his dad. But Marcus, he doesn't know us. He doesn't know what we have. I know, I say. Do you trust me? She asks. Yes. Then that's all that matters. 2 weeks later, she brings up the ownership structure. We're having dinner at a nice restaurant in Makati, and she's been quiet all night, and finally she says, Marcus, we need to talk about making you an official co-owner. I thought I already was, I say. You are, in practice. But legally, we need to structure it properly. Since you can't own the land directly, we need to set up a Filipino corporation. I'll hold the majority shares because I'm Filipino, but you'll be listed as the primary investor and co-director. You'll have full decision-making power, but I need you to transfer the final capital, the $250,000, so we can get everything registered properly. $250,000. That's everything I have left, my entire remaining savings. I feel my chest tighten. That's a lot of money to transfer all at once. I know, she says, and she reaches across the table, takes my hand. But Marcus, this is it. This is the final step. After this, we're official, legal, real partners. Real partners. I want that so badly. I want to be someone's real partner again. Not the husband who got left. Not the retiree who faded away. Someone who builds things. Someone who matters. Okay, I say, let's do it. She smiles, kisses me across the table. I love you, she says. It's the first time she said it. I've been waiting for those words, hoping for them. And now here they are, right when I need them most. I love you too, I say. I should have noticed that she said it right after I agreed to transfer the money. I should have noticed a lot of things, but I didn't because I was too busy feeling needed. Kathleen's lawyer has an office in Quezon City, in one of those mid-rise buildings that looks expensive but feels cheap once you're inside. His name is a T, Reyes, and he's younger than I expected, maybe 40, with styled hair and a nice watch. He greets Kathleen with a familiarity that makes me wonder how long they've known each other. Mr. Marcus, welcome, welcome, he says, shaking my hand. Miss Kathleen has told me all about your project. Very exciting. Very good investment. Thank you, I say. I'm looking forward to getting everything formalized. Yes, yes, of course, please sit. The documents are thick, maybe 50 pages, all in this tiny font. Sections in English and sections in Tagalog, and legal language that might as well be another language entirely. Attorney Reyes starts explaining, flipping through pages, pointing at sections, and he's talking fast, mixing English and Tagalog, and Kathleen is nodding along like she understands every word. So here, this establishes the corporate structure, he says. Kathleen Enterprises, Inc. Miss Kathleen holds 60% equity as the majority Filipino shareholder. Her brother holds 25%, and the remaining 15% is distributed among family members to maintain Filipino ownership as required by law. I hold up my hand. Wait, what about my ownership? You are listed here, see? He points to a section. Primary investor and co-director. You have full access to financials and decision-making authority. But no equity. He smiles like I've asked a cute but naive question. Mr. Marcus, foreigners cannot hold equity in corporations that own land. This is Philippine law, but your capital investment is secured here, and you have full protection as co-director. Something feels off. I look at Kathleen. I thought you said I'd be a co-owner. You are, baby, she says, and she puts her hand on my arm. This is just how it has to be structured legally. But you and me, we're equal partners. You know that. Attorney Reyes is still flipping pages. And here, this section outlines the capital investment schedule. Initial investment $150,000, already received. Second phase $100,000, already received. Final phase $250,000, to be received upon signing. Can I take these home? Review them with my own lawyer? I ask. Attorney Reyes glances at Kathleen, then back at me. Of course, Mr. Marcus. But we are on a timeline. The permits are approved now. The contractor is ready to start. If we delay, we lose the window. Baby, this is standard, Kathleen says. Attorney Reyes is one of the best corporate lawyers in Manila. He's handled hundreds of foreign investments. But if you want to wait, we can wait. It'll just push everything back a few months. A few months. More time sitting in my condo, more time watching other people build things, more time being nobody. I look at the papers again. The words blur together. I feel stupid, out of my depth. These are her waters, not mine. She knows the laws. She knows the language. She knows how business works here. What do I know? I'm just an Australian who doesn't want to be alone anymore. Where do I sign? I ask. Kathleen squeezes my arm. Are you sure? I don't want you to feel pressured. I'm sure, I say. And I am. Or I'm telling myself I am. It's hard to know the difference anymore. I sign every page Atito Reyes puts in front of me. My hand cramps by the end. He notarizes everything with this loud stamp that echoes in the small office. And then he shakes my hand again and says, Congratulations, Mr. Marcus. You are now officially in business in the Philippines. That afternoon, I transferred $250,000. My bank in Sydney makes me call 3 times to confirm. This is a very large transfer, Mr. Cooper, the woman says. Are you certain this is legitimate? It's my business, I say, my investment. Very well. The transfer will complete in 24 hours. That night, Kathleen insists we celebrate. She invites her family to dinner at a restaurant in Manila Bay, and they all show up. Her mother, a small woman with gray hair who speaks almost no English but hugs me like I'm already family. Her 2 brothers, Miguel and Paulo, both in their 40s, both friendly but quiet. And then there are cousins, maybe 4 or 5 of them. And I lose track of names. Everyone is smiling. Everyone is toasting. To Marcus, they shout. To Kathleen. To success. Her mother gives a speech in Tagalog that Kathleen translates. She says you are a good man. She says our family is blessed to have you. She says you are taking care of her daughter, and now she can rest easy. Taking care of her daughter, I like that. I like feeling like a provider again, like someone who takes care of people. My ex-wife used to complain that I worked too much, that I cared more about the business than about her. But here's Kathleen's family, grateful that I'm providing, grateful that I'm building something. This is what appreciation feels like. We get back to the condo around midnight. I'm exhausted, happy, but exhausted. Kathleen goes straight to the bedroom, says she's tired. I follow her, thinking maybe we'll celebrate privately, but she's already changed into pajamas, already under the covers. You okay? I ask. Just stressed, she says. Construction starts next week. So much to coordinate. I get into bed next to her. She's facing away from me. I put my hand on her shoulder and she doesn't respond. Kathleen? I'm just tired, Marcus. Good night. She's asleep in minutes, or pretending to be. I lie there staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out why I feel unsettled. This should be the happiest night of my life. I just invested everything into our future. Her family embraces me. We're building something real. So why do I feel like something just shifted? Like some invisible line got crossed and I'm only now noticing? It's just stress, I tell myself. Just the pressure of starting a business. She'll be fine tomorrow. We'll be fine tomorrow. But 3 days later, I try to log into the business bank account online. I type in the username and password Kathleen gave me. Invalid credentials. I try again. Invalid. I try a third time. Account locked due to multiple failed attempts. I sit there staring at my laptop screen and I feel something cold settle into my stomach. It's probably nothing. Probably just a typo. Probably just a technical error. But I can't shake the feeling that something is very, very wrong. I find Kathleen in the kitchen making coffee. Hey, I tried to log into the business account and the password isn't working. She doesn't even look up. Baby, you probably just typed it wrong. I tried 3 times. Then you probably have the wrong password. I'll fix it tomorrow. Can you fix it now? I just want to check the balance. Make sure the transfer went through. She turns to me, and there's something in her expression I haven't seen before. Irritation. Marcus, I'm busy. I have a meeting with the contractor in an hour. I'll fix it tomorrow. It'll take 2 minutes. I said tomorrow. She walks past me, grabs her bag, heads for the door. I follow her. Kathleen, wait. I just want to make sure everything is okay. She stops, turns around. Why wouldn't it be okay? Don't you trust me? Of course I trust you. I just want to see the account. You'll see it tomorrow, I promise. She kisses me on the cheek, quick and perfunctory. I have to go. I'll be late tonight. Don't wait up. She's gone before I can respond. I stand there in the empty condo, and that cold feeling in my stomach gets worse. Tomorrow comes and she's out the door before I wake up. I text her. Can you send me the bank login? No response for 6 hours. Then, stuck at construction site, bad signal. We'll send tonight. She doesn't send it that night. Or the next night. By the 4th day, I'm angry. Not just concerned anymore. Angry. Because I know what this feels like. It feels like being brushed off. It feels like being managed. It feels like being lied to. And I spent enough years in a marriage that fell apart to know what lies feel like. I don't tell her I'm going to Palawan. I just book a flight, rent a car at Puerto Princesa, drive up to El Nido. The land is easy to find. I remember the location. When I get there, my chest tightens. There's some clearing. The jungle has been cut back, maybe 50 meters. There are stakes in the ground with orange tape, but no foundation, no materials, no equipment, nothing that looks like construction is about to start. I walk the property, confused. Maybe they haven't started yet. Maybe the permits got delayed. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong section. I walk back to the road, and there's a truck parked nearby, and a man is unloading tools. Excuse me, I say, do you know about the resort construction here? He looks at me blankly, doesn't speak English. I try to pantomime. Construction? Building? Resort? Nothing. He shrugs, goes back to his tools. I'm standing there trying to figure out what to do next when I see Kathleen's car coming up the road. She parks fast, gets out, and she's furious. What are you doing here? I came to see the site. Without telling me? You weren't answering my messages. I told you I was busy. You don't just show up without telling me, Marcus. People are staring now. The man with the tools. Some local kids on bikes. I feel embarrassed, stupid. I just wanted to see the progress. There's no progress because we're still waiting on the final permits. I told you this would take time. You said construction was starting last week. Plans change. This is the Philippines. Nothing happens on schedule. Where's Ernesto? Where's the contractor? He's working on another job until we get the permits. He told me he'd give us the best price because you're family. She goes very still. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm just confused. You're accusing me of lying. I'm not. You are. You show up here without telling me. You question everything I say. You act like I'm some kind of criminal. Is this because I'm Filipina? Because you think we're all scammers? Kathleen, no, that's not. It is. You're like every other foreigner. You pretend to trust us, but really, you think we're all just trying to steal from you. She's crying now. Real tears. And I feel like the worst person in the world. I'm sorry. I say, I'm sorry, I just got worried. I'm working so hard, Marcus. Every day I'm dealing with lawyers and contractors and government officials, and you're making it harder. You're supposed to be my partner. You're supposed to support me. I am your partner. I do support you. Then act like it. We drive back to El Nido in separate cars. I feel sick, guilty, like I've just destroyed something precious. That night we're in the hotel room, and she won't talk to me, won't look at me. I apologize again and again. Finally, she softens, comes to bed, lets me hold her. I'm sorry I doubted you, I say. I forgive you, she says. But Marcus, this only works if we trust each other, completely. I know. Do you? Because it doesn't feel like it. I do. I promise. The next morning, she gives me a new login for the bank account. I check it on my phone. The balance is there. $500,000. Well, $487,000 after some fees and permits. But it's there. She's standing next to me watching me check it. See? She says, everything is fine. Why can't I make transactions? I ask. It's set up that way for security and for tax purposes. Foreign nationals can't be signatories on certain accounts. But you can see everything. You have full transparency. Oh, okay. Do you trust me now? She asks. Yes, I say. But I'm lying. Something inside me has shifted. Some part of me knows this doesn't make sense, but I can't admit it. Because admitting it means admitting I was wrong. Admitting I gave her everything for nothing. Admitting I'm the fool my son warned me I was becoming. That night I get a message from my son. Dad, I did some research. Foreign investments in PH land are complex. Are you sure your name is on the legal ownership documents? I stare at the message for a long time. I think about Addie Reyes's office, the pages I signed, the sections I didn't understand, and I realize I don't actually know what I signed. I don't know what I own. I don't know anything except that I gave Kathleen $500,000, and I'm afraid to ask too many questions because I'm terrified of what the answers might be. I don't respond to my son. Instead, I delete the message because sometimes it's easier to stay blind than to see the truth. I meet my new lawyer at a Starbucks in Makati. His name is Adi Santos, and my expat friend recommended him. He's honest, my friend said. He won't blow smoke. If something is wrong, he'll tell you. I brought every document I have, the corporate papers, the bank statements, the land survey, everything. Ator Santos says he needs 3 days to review it all properly. Those 3 days are the longest of my life. I don't tell Kathleen I've hired another lawyer. I don't tell her I'm questioning anything. We go about our routine. She's out most days, supposedly meeting with contractors and suppliers. I stay in the condo, trying to work on consulting projects, but I can't focus. Every time my phone buzzes, I jump, thinking it's a tie. Santos calling with news. On the third day, he calls. Mr. Cooper, I've completed my review. Can you come to my office? Just tell me over the phone. I think it's better if we speak in person. My hands are shaking when I walk into his office. He gestures for me to sit. His face is serious, professional, sympathetic. Mr. Cooper, I'm going to be direct with you because I think that's what you need right now. Okay? You are not a co-owner of this business. The room tilts. What? According to the corporate documents, you are listed as an investor with no decision-making power. The corporation is wholly owned by Miss Kathleen and her family members. Her brother Miguel holds 25%. Her brother Paulo holds 15%. Her mother holds 10%. And Kathleen herself holds 50%. You have no equity. You have no ownership. You have no legal claim to the property, the business, or the assets. But I'm listed as co-director. The lawyer said, you are listed as co-director, yes. But in Philippine corporate law, being a director doesn't grant you ownership rights. It's an advisory position. You can attend meetings. You can offer opinions. But you cannot make binding decisions without majority shareholder approval. What about my investment? The $500,000? Your investment is classified as a loan to the corporation. A loan? No, it was investment capital. We're building this together. According to the documents, it's a loan. But here's the problem, Mr. Cooper. There's no formal loan agreement, no repayment terms, no interest rate, no collateral. It's just listed as capital received from foreign investor. I can't breathe. What does that mean? It means you have no legal mechanism to recover your investment. You can try to sue for repayment, but without a formal loan agreement, it's difficult to prove that repayment was ever intended. This can't be right. Her lawyer explained everything. He said I had full protection. Attorney Santos slides a document across the desk. This is the section that matters. Right here. Do you see? It says foreign investor capital is non-recoverable except through dividend distribution, as determined by majority shareholders. I don't understand. It means you only get your money back if they decide to give it to you, and dividends can only be distributed from profits. If the business never shows a profit, you never see a dollar. But that's not what we agreed to. That's not what she told me. I understand, Mr. Cooper, but what matters is what's in writing. And what's in writing is that you gave $500,000 to a Filipino corporation with no ownership stake and no guaranteed return. I sit there, frozen. I can't process this. I can't make sense of it. How is this legal? It's legal because you signed it, because foreign ownership restrictions are real and they get exploited. I see this a lot, Mr. Cooper. Foreign nationals, usually men, usually older, investing in businesses or properties with Filipino partners, usually romantic partners. The structure is always the same. The foreigner provides the capital, the Filipino provides the ownership, and when the relationship ends, the foreigner has nothing. She wouldn't do this. She loves me. Timer Santos doesn't respond to that. He just looks at me with this expression that's somehow both sympathetic and resigned, like he's seen this story play out 100 times. What can I do? I ask. Honestly, not much. You can try to negotiate directly with Miss Kathleen. Maybe she'll agree to some kind of settlement. Maybe she'll pay you back over time. But legally, she's not obligated to give you anything. There has to be something. You can file a case for fraud or estafa, but you'd need to prove intentional deception. That's very difficult without evidence of explicit lies or forged documents. And Mr. Cooper, I have to be honest with you, these cases take years. They're expensive, and the success rate for foreign nationals is very low. I leave his office in a daze. I get in my car and just drive. I don't know where I'm going. I end up at Manila Bay, parked near the seawall, watching the sunset. My phone rings. Kathleen. I don't answer. She calls again. Again. Finally, she texts. Where are you? I'm worried. I drive back to the condo. It's after midnight. She's waiting in the living room. I called you 10 times. She says, why didn't you answer? I needed to think. Think about what? I look at her. Really look at her. And I see her differently now. Not the brilliant business partner, not the loving girlfriend, just a stranger wearing a familiar face. Am I really a co-owner of the business? She goes very still. For a moment, neither of us speaks. Then she sighs, sits down on the couch. Baby, you knew foreigners can't own land here. This was always the arrangement. I thought you understood. I didn't understand. I don't understand. I gave you $500,000. And we're building a business with it. Are we? Because I went to Palawan and there's no construction. I hired a lawyer and he says I own nothing. I don't even have a loan agreement. You hired a lawyer? Her voice changes, gets colder. You went behind my back? I was trying to protect myself. From what? From me? I don't know anymore. I don't know what this is. She stands up. You know what this is, Marcus. This is you not trusting me. Again. This is you treating me like a criminal. This is you being a paranoid old man who thinks everyone is out to get him. That's not fair, isn't it? You came to the Philippines looking for something. You found me. We built something. And now you're trying to destroy it because you're scared. I'm scared because I have nothing. I have no ownership, no protection, no control. You have me, she says. Isn't that enough? No, I say, and the word comes out before I can stop it. It's not enough. Not anymore. She stares at me for a long time, then she laughs. It's not a happy laugh. It's cold, mean. You really thought you were special, didn't you? You thought you were different from all the other old white men who come here with their money and their loneliness. Don't. You thought I loved you because you're smart, because you're successful, because you're such a catch at 64 with your divorce baggage and your desperate need to feel important. Stop it. Baby, you knew foreigners can't own land here. This was always the arrangement. I thought you understood. I didn't. I didn't understand at all. I spend the next 2 weeks quietly investigating. Kathleen and I are living in the same condo, but we barely speak. She's out most days. I tell myself she's working on the business, but I don't believe it anymore. I hire a private investigator. I feel pathetic doing it, like some jealous husband in a bad movie, but I need to know the truth. The investigator is a small Filipino man named Eddie. He charges me 20,000 pesos, about 350 US dollars, and says he'll have information in a week. 6 days later, he calls. Mr. Cooper, I have what you need. Can we meet? We meet at a mall in Quezon City, sit in a coffee shop tucked in a corner where no one can overhear us. Eddie slides a folder across the table. I'm sorry, sir. I know this is not what you want to hear. I open the folder. There are photos. Kathleen with a man I don't recognize. Young, Filipino, maybe 30. They're at a restaurant, at a beach, getting into a car, together. In one photo, he has his arm around her waist. In another, they're kissing. How long has this been going on? I ask. At least 2 months based on social media posts. His name is Carlo. He's a fitness instructor in Manila. They met at a gym. Does he know about me? Eddie shrugs. Hard to say. But I asked around. Kathleen tells people you're her foreign investor, not her boyfriend, not her partner, just an investor. An investor. That's all I ever was. I keep looking through the photos, and I feel nothing. Not anger, not jealousy. Just this profound emptiness. What about the cousin? Jun? The architect? Jun Almeida is not her cousin. He's her ex-boyfriend. They dated for 3 years. Broke up about 8 months before you met her. And the construction? The business? Eddie slides another document across. This is the contractor's statement. I spoke to Ernesto. He says Kathleen hired him to do clearing work, paid him 50,000 pesos, then disappeared. He hasn't heard from her in 6 weeks. No construction is happening. No permits have been approved. Where did my money go? I tracked what I could. About 80,000 US dollars went to her mother's house. She bought a property in Laguna. Another 50,000 went to paying off her brother Miguel's business debts. About 30,000 went to a car purchase, designer bags, trips to Boracay and Cebu, personal expenses, maybe another $40,000. That's only $200,000. Where's the rest? Different accounts. offshore transfers, cryptocurrency. I couldn't trace it all. But Mr. Cooper, very little of your money went into the business. Most of it went into her family's lifestyle. I closed the folder. Thank you, Eddie. I'm sorry, sir. I wish I had better news. I go back to the condo and Kathleen isn't there. I sit on the couch and I realize I don't even feel betrayed anymore. I feel stupid. So profoundly, crushingly stupid. How did I not see this? How did I let this happen? Every red flag was there, every warning, but I ignored them all because I wanted so badly to believe I wasn't invisible. I wasn't worthless. I wasn't just some divorced old man whose best years were behind him. Kathleen comes home around 10 p.m. I'm still sitting on the couch. You're up, she says. We need to talk. She sets down her bag. Okay. Who's Carlo? Her face doesn't change. A friend. A friend you're sleeping with. Does it matter? Yes, it matters. Why? Because you own me. Because you bought me with your money. I never said that. You didn't have to. She sits down across from me. Marcus, let's be honest. You knew what this was. A lonely old man comes to the Philippines, meets a young woman, gives her money, and in exchange, he gets to feel important. You knew. Maybe you didn't want to admit it, but you knew. I loved you. You loved the idea of me. You loved feeling needed. You loved playing the hero. And Jun, the architect, he's not your cousin. No. Were you ever going to build the resort? Maybe, if the money had lasted long enough. But you kept asking questions. You kept getting suspicious. You made it impossible. I made it impossible? Yes. If you just trusted me, just let me handle everything, maybe we could have made it work. But you had to hire lawyers and investigators. You had to ruin it. I stare at her and I realize I'm looking at a stranger. Did you ever care about me at all? She's quiet for a moment. Then she says, I cared about what you could give me, and you got what you paid for, Marcus. A chance to feel important, to feel young, to feel like you mattered. Don't act like you didn't know what this was. I didn't. Then you're a fool. She stands up, goes to the bedroom, comes back with a packed bag. I'm leaving. The condo lease is in your name. You can keep paying for it or break the lease. I don't care. The business is mine. The land is mine. The money is gone. If you try to sue me, you'll lose. You'll spend whatever you have left on lawyers and you'll lose anyway. So just let it go, Marcus. Go back to Australia. Find some other woman to save. Move on with your life. What about us? There was never an us. There was just you and your money and my need to survive. That's all it ever was. She walks out. The door closes. And I sit there in the silence, surrounded by the life we built together. And I understand finally, completely, that none of it was ever mine. Not the business, not the relationship, not even the dream. I bought an illusion, and she sold it to me perfectly. I try to fight back. I tell myself I have to. I can't just let her take everything. Attorney Santos files complaints with the Securities and Exchange Commission. He sends demand letters to Kathleen, to her family, to Ati, Reyes. He threatens litigation, fraud, estafa, breach of fiduciary duty, every legal angle we can find. The responses come back fast. Kathleen's lawyer, not a T, Reyes anymore, but someone new, someone more expensive, sends a letter saying all investments were made voluntarily. All documents were signed with full disclosure. No fraud occurred. The business structure is legal. The corporation is solvent. Mr. Cooper's investment was legitimate, and his classification as a non-equity investor was clearly stated in documents he signed and acknowledged. Can they really say that? I asked Attiris Santos. That it was clearly stated? I didn't understand any of it. Unfortunately, ignorance isn't a defense. You signed. You acknowledged. Unless we can prove active deception, intentional fraud, we have no case. What about the fact that construction never happened? That the money went to personal expenses? She can argue that the business is still in development, that expenses were legitimate business costs, salaries, consulting fees, operational overhead. It's very difficult to prove misappropriation without access to all the corporate books, and we can't compel that without a court order, and we can't get a court order without sufficient evidence of wrongdoing. It's circular. We file anyway. A case for estafa. The prosecutor's office reviews it. 6 weeks later, they decline to file charges. Insufficient evidence. The business structure is legal. Foreign investment restrictions are real. No criminal intent can be proven. What now? I ask. We can file a civil case, sue for recovery of investment. How long will that take? 2 years? Maybe 3? Maybe more. How much will it cost? Legal fees, court costs, probably $30,000 to $50,000. I don't have $30,000. I barely have $10,000 left. My retirement is gone. My savings are gone. I'm living off credit cards. My son is sending me money, which kills me because I'm supposed to be the father, the provider, and here I am taking money from my son. I can't afford it, I tell Eddie. Santos. He nods. He's not surprised. I understand, Mr. Cooper. I'm sorry. I'm hemorrhaging money on the condo lease. At $800 a month in rent for a place I can't afford anymore. I break the lease, pay the penalty, move into a small studio in Mandaluyong. My son calls every week. Dad, just come home, just come back to Sydney, let it go. I can't. Why not? Because if I leave, it means I gave up. It means she won. She already won, Dad. Come home. But I don't. Not yet. Because admitting defeat means admitting I was wrong. Admitting I was a fool. Admitting that I destroyed my entire retirement because I was lonely and desperate and stupid enough to believe a beautiful young woman could love me. I drive to Palawan one last time. I don't even know why. Maybe to see what I paid for. Maybe to confirm it's really gone. The land is easy to find. The clearing is overgrown now, jungle reclaiming what was briefly cut back. The stakes with orange tape are still there, faded and torn. There's a sign, stuck in the dirt near the road. Kathleen and Partners Resort Development, coming soon. My name isn't on it. It never was. I stand there alone on this beautiful stretch of beach that could have been something, and I feel the full weight of it crash down on me. Not just the money, not just the business, but the realization that I gave everything for nothing, that I was so desperate to matter, so desperate to not be invisible that I let myself be used, completely, utterly, willingly. $500,000, 3 years of my life, my dignity, my pride, gone, not stolen, given. Because I wanted so badly to believe that I still had value, that I still had purpose, that someone like Kathleen could see me as more than just a wallet with a heartbeat. I pull the sign out of the ground and throw it into the jungle. It doesn't make me feel better. Nothing makes me feel better. I get in my car and drive back to Manila, and 2 days later I book a flight to Sydney. My son picks me up at the airport. He doesn't say I told you so. He doesn't say anything. He just hugs me, and I cry for the first time since Kathleen left. I've been back in Sydney for 6 months now. My son helped me find a small apartment in Parramatta. 1 bedroom, cheap, nothing like what I used to have. I got a part-time consulting job through an old colleague. It doesn't pay much, but it keeps me busy, keeps my mind occupied. I go to therapy every Tuesday. My therapist, Margaret, is in her 50s, calm and patient. The first few sessions, I couldn't talk about what happened without getting angry, defensive, blaming everyone but myself. Kathleen was a con artist. The Philippine legal system is corrupt. Foreigners can't get justice there. It was everyone's fault but mine. Do you believe that? Margaret asked one day. Yes. All of it? Yes. Even the part about it not being your fault? I went quiet because I knew the answer. No. Tell me about that. I ignored every warning sign. My son told me to slow down. Timer Santos told me the documents were wrong. I felt it in my gut that something was off, but I ignored it all because I wanted to believe. I needed to believe. Why did you need to believe? Because if I didn't, then I was just a divorced, lonely old man with nothing left. No purpose, no value, no reason to get up in the morning. And you think Kathleen gave you those things? I thought she did. I thought we were building something together. I thought I mattered. Do you think you matter now? I didn't answer right away. Because the truth is, I didn't know. I still don't know. But I'm learning. Slowly. Painfully. I'm learning that my value doesn't come from what I can provide. It doesn't come from building businesses or rescuing people or being needed. It comes from just existing. From being kind to myself. From not hating myself for being human and making mistakes. I think about Kathleen sometimes. Not with anger anymore. Not even with resentment. Just sadness. Sadness for how desperately I needed to be needed, how much I was willing to pay for the illusion of purpose, how blind I was to everything because the fantasy felt so much better than the truth. I don't blame the Philippines. I don't blame Filipino people. I met good people there, honest people, Eddie the investigator, Attorney Santos, random strangers who helped me with directions or translated menus. The problem wasn't the country, the problem was me. My loneliness, my desperation, my willingness to ignore reality because reality hurt too much. My son and I are rebuilding our relationship. He comes over for dinner once a week. We watch football together, talk about his job, his life. He's careful not to bring up Kathleen unless I do, and I appreciate that. I don't need to be reminded. I'm reminded every day when I look at my bank account, when I realize I'll be working into my 70s now because I have no retirement left. When I think about the beach house I could have bought in Australia instead of the empty land in Palawan. One day, almost a year after leaving Manila, I get a message on Facebook. It's from Kathleen. I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry things didn't work out. You're a good man. I stare at it for a long time. My therapist and I talked about this, about what I'd do if she ever reached out. Part of me wants to respond, to tell her everything I've learned, to ask if she feels any guilt at all, to ask if she ever cared, but I know the answer. And I know that responding won't give me closure, won't give me peace, won't change anything that happened. So I don't respond, not out of spite, not out of anger, but because there's nothing left to say. She took my money, but I gave her my pride. I gave her my dignity. I gave her 3 years of my life, and I'm done giving her anything. I delete the message, I block her, and I move on. Not because I'm healed, not because I'm okay, but because I'm finally ready to stop letting her live rent-free in my head. I'm finally ready to rebuild myself, not for someone else, but for me. I'm 65 now. I'm broke. I'm working a job I don't love. I'm living in a tiny apartment. But I'm learning something I should have learned years ago, that my worth isn't measured by what I can give someone else. It's measured by how I treat myself, how honest I am with myself, how willing I am to face the truth, even when the truth is painful. I was a fool. I let loneliness and desperation drive me into a disaster. I gave everything to someone who saw me as nothing more than a transaction. But I survived. I'm still here. And slowly, day by day, I'm learning how to be enough, just as I am, without needing to be needed, without needing to prove anything. Just me, broken, scared, humiliated, but still standing. That's something. It's not everything, but it's something. And for now, that's enough.